Okay, so here we are. It is finally time to rank all 20. I guess it's 24 Ghibli movies, although there's 25 films here, because you may or may not know, Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind is not technically. Come on, Nausicaa. There you go. Nausicaa is not technically a Ghibli movie because the studio was not founded yet. However, most of the usual suspects that work on these movies, I mean, not that every movie is a Hayao Miyazaki film, but Hayao Miyazaki directed it. Joe Hisashi, I believe, was also the composer of it. It looks like a Ghibli, it sounds like a Ghibli, it feels like a Ghibli, and in most Ghibli collections, you're going to see Nausicaa, so I feel like it's only fair to keep it here. I mean, let's be real, Nausicaa feels way more like a Ghibli film than Earwig does. But we're going to talk about all 25 of these movies. Maybe not in this one sitting. Again, there's 25 of them. We're going to do the best we can. But there are a couple things I want to talk about before we get started with Nausicaa. Number one, I did this marathon last year. This movie is fresh in my mind. I watched it a couple weeks ago. This is fresh in my mind because I watched it a couple weeks ago. And some of these movies, like Laputa, Kiki... Oh, hell no, Kiki is not an F-tier movie. Oh my goodness, I felt sad just seeing it there temporarily. That actively hurt my soul. Spirited Away, like some of these I have seen enough times and I feel like I know them so well, I can really talk about them. Most of the others I've seen once, maybe a couple times, and I might not remember a lot of the finer aspects, but I remember the vibes. And I feel like with Ghibli, that is one of the most important things. It's not always about how much does the actual plot make sense, and it is just how much did you enjoy the world that you got to see? Whether it was mostly a realistic setting, like something like Poppy Hill or The Wind Rises. Is it something that's a lot more fantasy-based? Mononoke, Porko Rosso. I mean, Porko Rosso is a very realistic world, except the main character is a fucking pig. But I mean, it's a world that makes sense in that regard, I guess. I feel like the vibe is generally the most important thing. Now, as I was doing this Ghibli marathon, Jose watched the movies with me, but he didn't want to do this because Jose does not like being in videos, and I totally understand. We had another friend, N7, who does not actually... I still don't think he's played... Fuck, what is that? I almost said Bioshock, but it's not Bioshock. It's Mass Effect, that's it. He had never played Mass Effect, but he had a jacket with N7 on it, and that's why we know him as N7. But, he also did this marathon, but he wasn't watching the movies with us. But every time I finished one, I sent him kind of a mini review within a couple days, and I believe I still have all of those. So what I'm gonna do is when I start doing a movie, so like Nausicaa will be first. That's not the official tier. I'll talk about that in a second. But I will read my review from when I finished the movie, so that was kind of my fresh thoughts. Now that I've had more time to reflect on it and on the vibes of it, this is what my current thoughts on the movie is, and it'll go anywhere here. So that's the first thing I wanted to say before we got started. The second is just to explain the tiers themselves. So we will start with F tier. As you've noticed, I don't have a bottom of the fucking barrel on here because, spoiler alert, there is none for Ghibli. There's one movie I think is really, really fucking bad. I think I might have already mentioned what it was. I don't even think it's a bottom of the fucking barrel, though. Like, to me, there's nothing that would go below F. But F tier, it's dog shit. It just means I fucking hate it. It means even if there might be some things in it that are redeemable. There might be some aspects of it that I like. But overall, I just think it's really, really fucking bad. A D tier. To me, a D tier movie is one that I just don't like. I find it disappointing. I find it boring. I find it, I guess, on the more negative end of mediocre, which leads to a C tier movie, which is like, it's fine, it's mid, It's generally kind of inoffensive. I don't particularly like it, but I don't particularly dislike it either. A B tier is, this is a movie I have a lot of respect for. I might not really love it. I might kinda like it, but I can really respect its vibes, its themes, its animation, its soundtrack, etc., whatever the concept is. And A tier movies, I really like it. I fucking love it. I can gush about it. It's great. S tier is, I can make an argument that of all these movies listed, it is my favorite. And the double S would be my favorite movie. Just, okay, I say that as in, like, my favorite of these movies. But, you know what, I'm gonna just cheat a little bit. Spirited Away is just dead-ass my favorite movie. I made a video on this recently. If I didn't make that video recently, I would at least put up some kind of subterfuge or obfuscation. Like, alright, one of these is my favorite movie. We'll get to it. We'll figure it out. But, yeah, that was, the end of November? I was able to see it in theaters, and it's the first time I actually got to see the movie in theaters. I have watched Spirited Away so many fucking times. Like, actually, let me find the review I wrote for my friend, because from what I remember, it's really, really short. Let's see. Where is it? Okay, that's Porko Rosso, it's Ocean Waves, Pompoko, Whisper of the Heart, Mode. Okay, Spirited Away. This is my entire review that I texted to my friend. Spirited Away is not only my favorite Studio Ghibli film, but it might be my favorite movie of all time. That's it. I did not explain anything else. I was like, there's nothing else for me to say. I love this movie. The video I made, what was it? It was like an hour long. 45 minutes, an hour long. It's just me talking about my experiences with it, why I love it so much. It, to me, feels like Hayao Miyazaki's Alice in Wonderland. It is the movie that got me into Hayao Miyazaki's work. It's the movie that got me into Studio Ghibli. For years, I had said, like, yeah, I'm a big fan of Miyazaki and Ghibli. What I meant was, I'm a big fan of Spirited Away. Because there were, like, 2 other movies by him I'd seen. I think it was Laputa and Howl. Where's Howl? There's Howl. This is the one I knew. I knew those 2, and I still like them. Don't get me wrong. But, man, I love Spirited Away so much. It's not even a question. So to be an S-tier Ghibli movie means you have to give Spirited Away a run for its money. Like, I can make an argument that this movie is so good and that I like it so much that there's maybe something about it that I like more than Spirited Away, or that truly resonates with me more than Spirited Away does. There's some really, really good Ghibli movies. There might be less S-tier Ghibli movies than there are of DreamWorks movies. Please keep in mind, that's not necessarily me saying the DreamWorks films are better. The tier list is always, what's the word I want? It's like, context is everything. Everything is relative in that regard. So, Spirited Away at the very top. Let's talk about Nausicaa. So, whenever I'm going to be talking about a movie, I'm going to immediately just put it in the B tier because that's the middle of the screen. Then when I'm done talking about it, I will keep it wherever it goes. Cool, here we go. And I just did some circular motions with my hands that no one got to see, but I felt like it was important to bring up. So what I had said about Nausicaa was, quote, I do think it's a good movie. The imagery in this movie is iconic, from the forest to the bugs, from the forest to the bugs to the glider. The shot of the ancient warrior melting looks so cool. I do like the environmental themes, though I prefer Mononoke for making the other side more gray. Nausicaa is maybe a little too perfect as a character, but is still likable. It's a great start. For the most part, I still agree with that. There are parts of the movie, I remember rewatching it and thinking, that doesn't hold up super well visually. And from what I remember, it's the little yellow feeler tendril things. That's like the only thing. Because I was like, yeah, that looks kind of weird and not great. The rest of the movie looks great. I do think there's a lot of really iconic imagery. The first time I saw this movie, I want to say it was in 2007, 2008. And even though it had been so long since I'd seen it, I still remembered, like, I think they're called the Ohms, or the bugs, which sticks out to me because those are the names of, like, the humans from Fantastic Planet, which is not a movie I think of super often, but anytime I hear Ohm, I think of Fantastic Planet. I remember the look of the bugs, I remember Nausicaa and the way she holds onto her glider, and I think that looks super fucking neat. Yeah, the big ancient warrior, the big robot dude fucking melting is really, really cool to look at. It's a very striking image. There's a fucking Gintama episode about the Shinsengumi not properly washing their hands after they go to the bathroom. And the germs from their fucking dicks and the germs infecting the Shinsengumi base. And partway through, I was like, the way they're showing the germs gathering, it looks a lot like Nausicaa. Like, it looks like a lot of, like, the mold and shit from Nausicaa. Is that intentional? And then the second half of the episode is a giant Nausicaa parody with Ohms with fucking Kondo's face, with Ichikata using Nausicaa's glider. And I think it is one of the single funniest episodes of Gintama. It's like, I feel bad for saying this, but, like, I can't think of this movie anymore without thinking of that episode of Gintama. And on the one hand, it makes me like this movie more because of just how good that episode is, but my brain is also like, I don't think I could ever watch Nausicaa again and take it seriously. Not because of anything from the movie, but I would just be thinking of fucking Gintama the entire time. One of the things, though... brain stop for a second. One of my favorite aspects of this movie is also, I think, one of its biggest weaknesses, and that's Nausicaa herself. What I love about this character is how dynamic she is. Or I guess not maybe necessarily dynamic, how versatile she is. There's a lot of different hats that she wears over the course of the movie. She is a princess, and as a result of that, like, her people love her. She has a lot of communication skills. There's not really a whole lot of political skills, but you do see a lot of empathy and kindness, and it's really sweet. She's also able to be a warrior. She fights people. I think she kills a few motherfuckers in the movie. She's badass. She's also a scientist at times. She, I believe, is working on a cure for... I keep wanting to call it the mold. I don't know if that's quite accurate, but the just, like, encroaching forest and, like, I think there's a sickness that comes from it as well, and it's something that she's studying. So she's also a pilot because she's able to fly her glider, and she's able to do that super well. There's, like, nothing she can't do, and I think that's pretty neat. If I had a daughter, I would 1000% show her this movie when she was younger. And it's one of those movies that I would want it to be one of her favorites. This is someone that you can be. You can be whatever you want. You can be a pilot. You can be a fucking soldier. You can be a scientist. You can be a leader. And no matter what you do, empathy and kindness are the most important tools you can have. Regardless of how you want to live your life and what your career is, don't forget how important it is to take care of other people. That's really good shit. But like I said, I think it's one of the biggest weaknesses of the movie, because there's that part of my brain that's like, she's a little too fucking perfect. She can literally do anything and everything. And it feels like, yeah, anyone who disagrees with her is just an asshole. And then there ends up being this prophecy, and then she's this Messiah archetype, and she even dies to save everybody, but then she kind of comes back, and then it's like, oh yeah, she's basically Jesus. And I kind of roll my eyes a little. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. There's these other factions, and to me, they're almost interesting, but I don't think, at least for me, they don't get quite enough screen time for me to get really invested in them. And again, I feel like when you make Nausicaa so perfect and so peace-loving, and these guys are just assholes, it doesn't really come across as this is a morally gray situation. See Princess Mononoke, and just more of, isn't our main character so wonderful and perfect? With all that being said, I honestly think B is where I would keep it. I do respect a lot of this movie. I respect the way it looks. I respect that they were able to make such a strong character. I just wish she was more flawed, or that she was more interesting, or that the supporting cast was more interesting. But as the movie that more or less started it all, again, it's not the first Ghibli movie, but it's more or less the first Ghibli movie, I kind of have to give it that honorary respect. I guess in that regard, it is kind of like Snow White. Like, I remember when I rewatched Snow White, it's like, I don't love it. I think it's kind of okay. But I have so much fucking respect for it and what it built that I don't dislike it. I don't dislike Nausicaa. I think it's fine, but I respect the hell out of it. Now we move on to Castle in the Sky, also known as Laputa, and that rolls off the tongue a little better, so I'm probably going to be calling it Laputa for most of this. So what I had sent to my friend. I don't know how many times I've seen Laputa, Castle in the Sky, but it's certainly not enough. I love damn near everything about this movie. The score is breathtaking, the visuals phenomenal. I cried during the second scene with the main theme and the images showing off Laputa. The protagonists are endearing, the pirates are a ton of fun, and Muska is a boss. Love this movie. I don't think I have anything to add. I have seen this movie, out of any Ghibli movie, this is easily the one I've seen the second most amount of times. I'd say right above Howl and right below Spirited Away. It's just a really fun adventure movie. I love how shit looks. I love the design of Laputa, and anytime I see like a big airship, even if it's not always an airship, but like if I see something shoot a giant blast from the bottom of it, my brain goes, oh, a Laputa laser. I use that like all the time. I can't say all the time, it's not something I see super often, but anytime I do, I'm like, oh, it's the Laputa laser. I know what that is. Like I said, I think Patsu and Shida are incredibly endearing. The pirates are a blast. I love their little fucking hummingbird, like hover. They're not really bikes. Are they bikes? I don't know. They're fucking hovercrafts. We'll go with that. I think they look super neat. I think the pendant's fucking pretty. When they actually get to Laputa and you get to meet the, he doesn't have a name, but the robot dude. It's super fucking sweet. And him just like sitting there holding the flower. I'm like, that's a super iconic image. Shida falling is a super iconic image. There's so many in this movie. I love that theme so much. It's so pretty. And like I said in that little review, when we were watching Laputa and we got to... Because the first scene of the movie is Shida is on an airship with Muska. They're attacked by the pirates, and Shida gets away, and she drops and lets herself fall. Then you get this opening montage of like life in Laputa, and the theme is playing. I was full on crying. It was like, I love this movie. I know what I'm in for, and I'm in for a good time. The score is gorgeous. And after playing Trails in the Sky, I'm like, oh yeah, that trail. I mean, it's not even after playing Trails. Like, while I was playing the game, I was like, dude, there's so many things that remind me of Laputa. It's actually insane. Which it makes me love this movie more for the inspiration it had on my favorite game of all time. And it makes me love my favorite game of all time more because it makes me think of a movie that I fucking adore. And there's times where, like, I'll whistle or hum or just kind of, like, be thinking of the theme to Laputa, and then it'll get mixed up with Whereabouts of Light, and the other thing happens too. We're like, yeah, even the main fucking themes are really similar. Like, it should maybe bother me a little bit. It just doesn't. And out of everything I've talked about, you know what my favorite scene in the movie is? My absolute favorite part of Laputa. It's the fucking flex off. It's when the boss and one of Tola's sons are just flexing so hard that their shirts fucking burst. And then they have turn-based combat because the dude just punches the boss. And they both share, like, this goofy smile. And then he punches the other dude. And now it's his turn. So he punches back. Now it's his turn. He punches back. Then it turns into a big brawl. And just talking about it and remembering, I have the biggest fucking grin on my face, man. This is an S-tier fucking movie. It is so, so, so good. And on my ranking, because, like, this is not going to be aside from, you know, the actual double S, I did that backwards, but you know what I mean. Aside from the tier placements, this is not going to be an ordered tier list. Like, if I have multiple other movies in S tier, I'm not going to fuck around with them. But this deadass is my 1 and 2. This is just a happy coincidence. This is my favorite. Laputa is right behind it. I can't say it doesn't come close to overthrowing Spirited Away. But to me, that's just how important Spirited Away is to me. That is not at all a knock on Laputa. The movie is I don't even think I did a good click there, but I think it is a damn near perfect fucking movie, and I love every second of it. My Neighbor Totoro. The mascot of Studio Ghibli. My Neighbor Totoro ditches the adventure of Nausicaa and Laputa for a low-key story of sisters befriending a cat troll thingy. The shot of Totoro in the rain is one of the most iconic in any animated film. The creature designs are memorable as well. Totoro, the cat bus, and the soot balls that we'll see again in Spirited Away, because I do think they look the exact fucking same. But it's honestly not for me. It's a charming film with a good score, but I don't enjoy the characters as much as I did in Laputa or Nausicaa herself. There isn't a lot of plot, and the feeling of moving and discovering a new place is pleasant, but not much else. Great kids movie, but unfortunately not much for me. And yeah, that hasn't really changed in the past year as I think about it. I think Totoro is fine. I really do. Though I do stand by what I said at the very end of my review a lot. I think this is a fantastic kids movie. It's a movie with fun, like, it's got great designs. Like, yeah, the cat bus is super fucking iconic. It's barely in the movie. It doesn't contribute much. But it's just so fucking cool that people remember it. Even Totoro himself, from what I remember, doesn't really do much. Because there's no real plot to the movie. There's not a lot for him to do. But I feel like it's a movie where if I showed it to some kids, they'd probably have a good time. And if I had watched this as a kid, especially as a kid who had to move a lot, I'd probably like the movie a lot. Because when it first starts, and it's I don't even remember their names. I think one of the girls is named May. But when the girls first move into their new home, and it is about that, I have to, like, adjust to a new place, to a new school, to a new life. I have to make new friends. But let's have some fun with it. Let's try to have an adventure of it. Like, let's pick out our rooms, see what's here. And, like, oh, there's spirits and fun shits and, like, playing games as you're moving into the house. That is my favorite part of the movie. 'Cause it's a part of the movie that really resonated with me. It's like, I'm really feeling something here. The rest of it, I think it's pretty. It just doesn't do much, but if I had grown up with it, I would probably love this movie. I'd probably be eating it up. I'm like, look, I know it doesn't have a plot, and I don't care. It's just so pleasant. It's so fun to just look at and be in. This movie is great. But I didn't grow up with it, so unfortunately, I don't have that nostalgia. I think it's fine. The question is, where do I put it? Like, it's not an F-tier movie. Like, that's not even a question. There's a part of my brain that goes, is it a D-tier movie? Because I'm just so, like, on it, but I don't think so. Like, I don't think it's boring. Now, does anything really happen in it? No, but I didn't feel bored. How much do I respect it? Because, like, if Totoro wasn't the mascot to Studio Ghibli, if this was, I don't know, like, fucking Ocean Waves. Oh, that might not be a good sign if you're an Ocean Waves fan. Dude, I cannot wait to talk about Ocean Waves. I think Ocean Waves is unironically one of the funniest movies I have ever... No, excuse me. It is ironically one of the funniest movies. Unintentionally. That's what I wanted to say. It is unintentionally and ironically one of the funniest movies I have ever seen. And it's because of one scene. This one scene is amazing. And oh fuck, I can't wait. As for Totoro, it's like, my respect for it comes from the fact that, like, it's a really pretty Miyazaki movie, but that's what a lot of these are. So again, like, things being relative, like, I could give that to Nausicaa for kind of being the OG. And again, how much I do respect with Nausicaa's character, I don't quite get that for Totoro. I think for me it is more of a C-tier movie. Maybe that's super blasphemous. I don't know. But for me, that feels accurate. So let's talk about depression. Let's fucking talk about Grave of the Fireflies, man. So, this is what I said to my friend. Grave of the Fireflies is a whimsical romp through the 1940s where a pair of siblings eat rice and watch fireflies. Some fireflies die at the end, but it's the only sad thing that happens. Fun for the whole family. Seriously, though, movie is great. I cried at the Setsuko montage after her death, and again at their reunion. That score is hauntingly gorgeous. It's jarring going between this and Totoro. Yeah! I mean, if you know anything about Grave of the Fireflies, you know how the movie ends. And I hadn't seen it, but that was what I knew about it, was I knew how the movie ended. And I remember when I realized what was in the fucking fruit can from the start of the movie, that the one dude was like kicking around, and went, oh man, if they show that scene again, now that I have context, I'm gonna fucking weep. And they didn't. And there's a part of me that goes, thank you? Because I don't know, like, we only have like 5 minutes left, and I might not have been able to finish the movie if you did that. But I'm also like, you had me. Like, you could have finished me off and destroyed me, but you let me go. I don't know if I like that, but I'm also like, I kind of appreciate the restraint. Because the movie's sad enough, you didn't really need to jam another fucking stake through my heart. I really liked this movie. Yeah, it is fucking weird watching Totoro, a movie where nothing really happens, but it's very cute, it's very light, it's very fluffy, and then watching this. I don't remember the score, but apparently I thought it was gorgeous and haunting, and that does not surprise me, just given what the movie's about. I did not cry when she died, but I remember, like, watching him hold a funeral for her, and that fucked me up. And then when their souls reunited at the end, I'm like, You got me. You got me bad. You know, where would I put it? Because I don't think I can put it in B. Because I feel like I respect the fuck out of this movie, but I really, really like it. It's not Spirited Away. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that slot is taken. This is where I'm between right now. Like, we're going to put it in B for now still, but I really like the movie. Can I make an argument that it's my favorite? It is the most emotionally devastating out of any of these movies. That's for dang sure. But I feel like as much as I really enjoyed the movie, I don't think I quite loved it as much as some of these other S-tier films. Excuse me. I think for me, a lot of the other... I can't say a lot, because I feel like the S Club is actually kind of exclusive when it comes to Ghibli. Again, because you're really competing with Spirited Away over here. I feel like, with the exception of Laputa, which is up here because I just think it is that fucking good and I've seen it so many times, most of the other S-tier movies are ones that hit me really personally. Like, I can see myself in one of these characters, or, like, it just reminds me of, an aspect of my life. Bless you. And thankfully, I don't get that with Grave of the Fireflies. If Grave of the Fireflies reminded me of aspects of my life, I would feel very, very sad. But I think the movie is phenomenal. So for me, personally, I'm gonna put it in A. There's an argument that maybe I think it's an S-tier movie. It's one of those movies where, like, if you think it's an S-tier movie, if you have it up here, I'm not gonna argue with you on that. I do think the movie is really, really, really fucking good. I don't know if I quite would put it there, so I'm gonna leave it in A for now. But who knows? Maybe by the end of this, like, I'm like, alright, this is the tier list. Fuck it, I'm gonna move it up. Like, we'll see. Kiki's Delivery Service. So I know somewhere on the channel, because I know I've done a video on Kiki before. I don't know if I've talked about it other places on the channel. But I have an interesting history with Kiki's Delivery Service. There was a movie, and I want to say it's The Brave Little Toaster, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time. That is a movie I watched a lot as a kid, and I was like, oh, it's so cool! Like, there's a toaster and a talking radio and shit, like, and the movie's great. And that's kind of why I loved the movie, just very simplistic reasons. And then as an adult, I don't think I rewatched this movie till law school, like either like my last year of undergrad or my first year of law school. I was like, I'm gonna rewatch The Brave Little Toaster. How good is this movie? Like, is it one of those movies where I'm gonna rewatch it and be like, yeah, it's a dumb, shitty kids movie, but I have a soft spot for it, or is it actually really good? Movie's really fucking good. The movie, I feel like the movie, I say this about The Land Before Time as well, it feels like a movie that grows up with the audience. Like, you watch it as a kid and you're like, cool, it's a talking toaster, or cool, it's a fucking dinosaur. And then when you watch it as an adult, these movies hurt you. Brave Little Toaster in particular, like, it is okay, I'm gonna stop talking about The Brave Little Toaster so I can move on to Kiki. My point being, there was an advertisement on whatever the video was, and again, I think it was The Brave Little Toaster, for Kiki's Delivery Service. So throughout my childhood, I kept seeing an ad for this movie about a witch who would fly around, and like she has a conversation with someone about like, yeah, like talking about like how cool magic is, and about like a witch's flight and what it means. And I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to watch this movie about witches and shit. Like, this sounds awesome. Then it wasn't until undergrad, so about like 20 years before I finally fucking no, I wasn't 25 in undergrad. I was like 15. No, not 15. I was 20? Yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry. So 15, or yeah, so 20, so not 20 years, about 15 years. Got it. Decade and a half. There we go. So I had about a decade and a half of build-up when I finally watched Kiki's Delivery Service. And it is not a movie about a big-ass adventure. It's not like a Harry Potter thing where you're just seeing a witch do all this really cool shit. It is a super laid-back movie. And I was so thoroughly disappointed. I was like, this is the most D-tier ass shitty movie. I'm so mad I spent so much of my life wanting to see it. That's the first time I saw Kiki. Then I remember watching a Patrick H. Willems video, and I still haven't seen his holiday special. I actually need to get on that pretty soon. I watched him do a video about Kiki's Delivery Service and about his interpretation of the film. And I don't exactly remember what he said. I feel like I remember him saying it was like about burnout. That might be accurate, and I could definitely see that interpretation. But as he was talking about it, I was like, maybe there's a lot more to Kiki than I gave it credit for. You know, it is one of those experiences where maybe if I watch it for what it is instead of what I expected it to be, I'll like the movie a lot more. So then I rewatched it, and I was like, wait a second. This movie's really fucking good. It is a movie that I can easily see being about burnout. But it's a movie that I see that's just about creativity. It's about your spark, whatever it is. Magic, writing, sports, making videos, baking, game deving, like whatever it is that gives your life meaning, that like wakes you up in the morning. And having it and loving it. And slowly but surely your spark getting eroded away. Maybe that's because of other things interfering with your life. Maybe it's just because, like, when you make a career based on your spark, you stop seeing it as your spark and you start seeing it as a career, and that just drains you to the point where you don't feel it anymore. You don't love it anymore. And the entire section of the movie, which is like the second half, it's a long part of the movie where Kiki can't use her magic because she doesn't feel it anymore. There is no spark. And it's about getting your spark back. It hits so hard, man. Also, the fucking scene where she comes home and says nothing and just falls onto the bed. If you've been an adult, you felt that. It's the most relatable gif I've maybe ever seen. It's fantastic. And then I watched the movie again as part of this marathon. I was like, yeah, second first. I can't say second same as the first, because the first I didn't like the movie. But I'm like, no, this movie's great. I fucking love it. Like I said, to be an S-tier movie, you have to, like, hit me hard. I'm like, boy, Kiki does. In a different way from Grave of the Fireflies. Grave of the Fireflies made me cry. Lappy did that, but Kiki did not do that. Neither did Toy Story 3. But Toy Story 3 still resonated with me, because like, I was graduating high school, I think the next year, like when I saw Toy Story 3, and I was like, man, that hit me hard. I also realized I didn't read the fucking review I gave for Kiki, so let me find that. Kiki's Delivery Service is about so many different things. Dealing with creative block, burnout, the service industry, discontentment with passion and self-confidence. I find it relatable and delightful. Unlike Totoro, it balances charm and whimsy with an interesting character arc. I didn't care for it the first time I watched it because I was expecting a grand adventure. I've seen it twice since and can appreciate it for what it is, a certified masterpiece. That might be the best shit I've ever said. This movie is a certified masterpiece. Did I say masterpiece? Did I say fasterpiece? I don't know. I don't know if I said the M there, but I absolutely love it. Oh my... I'm sorry. Completely unrelated to what we're talking about now. I just wanted to check the score. The Pistons and the Celtics are in overtime. There's 2 minutes and 40... This video is now officially dated as fuck. They are tied. 112 to 112. 2:46 left. The Pistons have lost 27 straight games and have taken the Celtics to overtime. What the actual... Oh my god, the Browns have scored 34 points at halftime. What's Flacco up to? Flacco has 3 touchdowns in the first... Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I just wanted to look at scores real quick. Only yesterday. So, my thoughts on this movie when I watched it. Only Yesterday is the type of film I should love. The story of an adult reflecting upon their childhood and some of the missteps, missed opportunities, and difficulties of growing up. How this led to them becoming who they are today, and if they like that person or not. There's a great movie in here, but it doesn't come through. Reflecting on eating pineapples and being bad at math didn't feel like major milestones in Taeko's life. Her reflecting on the boy who wouldn't shake her hand comes right out of nowhere, but is treated as if it's this important revelation. The film lacks the charm of the others. I didn't feel invested in Taeko as a child or an adult. Instead, I felt bored. Yeah, I did not get into this movie. I really, really wanted to. There's an anime I watched years ago called After the Rain, or as I called it while I was watching it, Cringe Cafe. The storyline of After the Rain is about a girl who was part of the track team but got injured. And while she was rehabbing from her injury, she ends up working at a cafe and develops a crush on the manager who's old enough to be her father. And the manager, from what I remember, for a good chunk of the series does not know of her feelings, and at no point in the series ever reciprocates those feelings. And as it goes on, it becomes more clear that no, it's not that she's really attracted to him because she finds him attractive or is in love with him, but he gave her support at a very vulnerable time, and that's what she was attracted to, and like an emotional crutch, and blah, 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 blah. There's also scenes where she'll, like, sniff his clothes, and it... There's a reason I called it Cringe Cafe. The reason I bring it up is his part of the story is I don't remember how old he was. I don't remember if he was in his 30s or in his 40s, but I think it was in his 40s, maybe early 50s. And he's reflecting on his youth and his, not necessarily childhood, I think it was more of his teenage, young adult years. And remembering all the shit that he wanted to do with his life and what he wanted to be and how he's not where he is. Or excuse me, that's not where he is right now. And it's kind of starting to, like, reawaken that old spark. It was also a passion for writing, so of course that's something that speaks to me personally. And I remember watching it, like, when I got to the end, I was thinking, okay, no, I did not like this anime. But I feel like if I rewatched it, because I watched it when it came out, so that was like the first or second year of law school. Like, if I watched this again in about 10 years, maybe it would hit differently. Because I felt like his part of the story was a lot more interesting. And maybe if I was older and I was having a midlife crisis, I could really get into it. And for me, I feel like Only Yesterday is very similar. I get the idea of reflecting on your life and looking back on the things that went wrong and some of these missed opportunities. One of the big ones is like when she was being scouted, I believe it was for a play that she really wanted to do, and her father said, no, and I am not going to let you do that at all. And like, yeah, maybe she could have had a big career in acting. Maybe that truly was her calling, and she got screwed out of it, and that's not her fault. I think that can be interesting, but the movie is so slow, and I just never really felt that strong of a connection with her. Unfortunately, I was just kind of bored out of my skull, and I didn't want to be, but I was. Maybe in like 10 years, 15 years, God willing, I am alive in 10 to 15 years. I mean, you just never know. I could rewatch Only Yesterday and go, oh, I get it. It's here. It is 100% here. Maybe it's even up here. But for now, I have to put it here. I just did not enjoy it. And as much as I hate to say it, I just kind of couldn't wait for it to be over. I'm hoping if I could rewatch it later in life, it can have the fucking Kiki redemption arc, but that's where it is for me for now. Porko Rosso. Porko Rosso is awesome. Marco and Fio work off each other well, the antagonists are a lot of fun, and there's a lot of funny lines and visuals. Curtis appearing in the giant crag and the entire boxing match stands out in that regard. This one is a lot of fun. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a lot of events in Porko Rosso. I just remember really having a good time. I just remember this movie being neat as fuck. I was grinning. I was laughing. I remember that it's better to be a pig than a fascist. I remember the fucking dog fight, like the climax, when the two dudes are shooting each other, but the guns are jammed, so they're not working, and then they fly their planes into the water and dismount their planes and just start fucking boxing each other in the middle of the water. I remember, I don't remember her name. I'm assuming that was, like, Theo? Was that it? But I remember the conversation she has in, like, the gazebo with that dude that was, what's the word I want? With her suitor, that's it. And it's something along the lines of, you're an idiot. That's what I like about you. Like, there's just a lot of really good quips in this movie. Fun shit to look at. I wish I remember some of the more philosophical leanings, because from what I remember, they are definitely in here. I just don't remember them. But like I said, a lot of this tier list is the vibes and the emotions. I remember my vibes with these movies, and this was an A tier vibe for fucking sure. It was awesome. Can we get Ocean Waves? Ocean Waves is about a guy loving his homie more than the new girl. More than the new girl his homie has the hots for. The movie has to tell us Taku likes Rikako rather than showing us. This movie feels like it would have had a very different ending if it came out today, but I still had a good time with it. Ocean Waves has one of the funniest, like I said earlier, one of the funniest scenes I have ever seen, and possibly the single funniest ending I've ever seen in a movie. The relationship between our two main characters, I felt no chemistry and no investment in. She treats him like shit almost every time they're on screen together, and he's like, no, like, I don't like her. Like, I'm not emotionally attracted to her. I'm, like, barely physically attracted to her. But his homie really liked her, and the ending of the movie is when his homie is telling him, hey man, you love her. You know, it feels like a very basic rom-com kind of scene. It's like, no, you idiot. You've been in love with her the entire time. You just didn't realize that, dude. You gotta go after her. You gotta go chase her. You gotta go confess. Tell her how much you love her. You know, like that kind of thing. And then the main character would be like, oh man, now that I think about our relationship and all the times we've interacted together, yeah, I do love her. Oh my goodness, I can't let her get away. The way it goes in Ocean Waves is he has that moment where his friend's like, dude, yo, you gotta go do this. And he starts remembering all of the interactions he's had with the main girl, and they're all just her treating him like shit. And After realizing, oh man, I have not had a single positive interaction with this person. You're right. I love her. It just doesn't work. Like, at all. And I think it's amazing. I think it's so fucking funny how it, in the moment where it's supposed to all come together, it just falls apart, man. It's impeccable. This movie is amazing, and I don't think it's intentionally so. I do feel like if this movie was made in a modern time, or the story was made in a modern time, it would probably end with him confessing to his homie, and they would probably end up together, because honestly, I got a lot more chemistry out of them than I did of the main perceived couple. But, oh gosh, dude, I love this movie. I don't think it's good. I think it spectacularly fails at being a romance, because I actively don't care about the romance. And the romance throughout the movie is so bad, the highlight reel is showing off how terrible she is and how terrible they are together. But it's so fun! Like, I feel like, I can't say objectively, because I don't really, like, to me there is no such thing as objectively viewing a piece of media, because you're always going to have your biases and, you know, your different things about it. But I would say, like, just solely on its merits of being a rom-com that doesn't work, it's about here, maybe here. In terms of how much I like it, because of how fucking funny it is, it's not up here, but it's, like, up here. I honestly think it balances out to a B-tier movie. It's like, I respect it more than I like it, because it's not even that I respect it. It just... I guess I kind of do. It's an ironic respect. I don't think it's nearly it's not as consistently funny as something like The Room, but I think it ends on one of the single greatest jokes of all time. And it's really sad. My face now hurts from laughing so hard at Ocean Waves, so you know what? I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna go get some water, maybe have another piece of Christmas fudge, and then I will go back to talking, and we will talk about Porko.